This is Gary Atensi with CNTV, and today we're in Denver, Colorado. I'm here at Clean Tech Engineering, brand new for 2020. They're providing engineered solutions for the built environment while actively and effectively keeping you healthy. I'm here with the founders. Guys, thanks so much for joining us here today. Let's start off a little bit about yourself, Bryce, first of all. Share with me how this vision got started. Why the need for this type of company?
Yeah, so as we all know, COVID-19, it's on everybody's minds. You really can't get away from it. And what that's really brought into the forefront is the air that we breathe is incredibly important. It has bacteria, it has virus, it has pollen, it has literally everything. And so now people are actually questioning, whereas a few months ago they were just taking for granted the air that they breathe. And so what Mike and I have really done is to put together really conclusive solutions for and custom solutions for buildings, whether it's residential, commercial, taking into account indoor air quality as well as building efficiency.
That is excellent. I mean, both you guys were formally educated right here in Colorado. You yourself, you graduated summa cum laude from Colorado University. Everything from solar race boats to HVAC since back in '96. Share with me a little bit why you decided this was a good venture to jump into.
Well, obviously, COVID got the conversation started, but really I've been concerned about indoor air quality and particularly energy savings for a long time. So, kind of the goal we have is sort of a clean energy, clean living sort of approach. We want to make sure that we're producing less carbon footprint, and we also want to make sure that people are breathing easier. And it actually has economic impact. When people are healthier, when people are more comfortable in spaces, there are direct studies that show like increased productivity, increased happiness, less turnover, those kinds of things. So it's something that that I personally have been looking into for a long time, and this sort of launched an avenue for the conversation to really become more front and center.
Obviously, Bryce, a lot of your business models, I mean, they hinge on collaboration. I mean, about professionals coming together. Do you think this is something that we as Americans are going to be able to put our heads together and do something about?
Yeah, in fact, we've often touted ourselves as a world leader and leading by example throughout history. So I feel like COVID has given us an opportunity to kind of like flash the flashlight this way and kind of look at ourselves. And I think this is a real opportunity to take some of the potential that I believe and many Americans believe we have to push forward.
This interview takes place amidst a pandemic right now, not only local but worldwide. Basically, we as the public, we are quick to be aware that clean air is important. The environment that we work in is important. We're no longer taking that for granted. It's no longer an afterthought, but a forethought. And do you think this is going to get the conversation started and make people realize there are options out there?
We think it is, but that's why we're also trying to offer this in tandem with energy-saving packages, because ultimately what we would like to do is these things go together. Usually when you're talking about indoor air quality, you're talking about more blower use and whatever your functional equipment is that's providing your heating and cooling. So in tandem with it, we're actually trying to drop the energy below which you'd already be saving. So there's some help to get down this path. But in general, we feel that this has truly put a spotlight on how quickly things can spiral out of control if people aren't focusing on their indoor air quality. And as a matter of record, the EPA has long stated that the air inside buildings and houses is about 3 to 5 times as polluted as the air outside. So part of my job for years, especially commercially, has been to bring fresh air into spaces.
That is interesting. I mean, we're all learning quickly that there's reactive approaches and proactive approaches we can all take. Reactively, we can isolate ourselves, we can social distance, yet a proactive approach, which is really killing the germ altogether so we don't get sick. Do you think that is going to be the conversation of the future and really the ultimate solution?
I really think it is. It's one of the easier ways in order to treat the air that we breathe in day out. Now, UVC light has been proven to kill viruses, bacteria, mold, allergies. So, some of these viruses, COVID, maybe we get a vaccine, hopefully, pretty soon on with that. But then fall comes, we've got influenza. People have allergies. So COVID started the conversation for this, but these indoor air quality things have been around for decades, longer than that, and they're going to keep being around.
I mean, not only is the public out there learning quickly on how to protect ourselves, but even professionals. I mean, they're looking beyond the liquid disinfectant now. They're seeing ways that are not so common. One of those is light. Is this something that do you think is being more accepted in the professional circle?
I'd say in the professional circle, it's been a concern for a while. I mean, a lot of your conversations with professionals are a business-to-business conversation. So it's like, well, they need to see how this affects their bottom line. So that's where a lot of this concern comes in. But there are direct benefits that have been studied. They're just hard to quantify. So if you can come to a business and you can say, hey, if you do this thing, you're going to get better attendance and you're going to get better productivity, and so you're actually going to see a boost in your business sales or your business operation or your efficiency. That's one thing to say that. It's another thing to be able to quantify it.
That is interesting. Let's try to educate the viewer a little bit here on we're talking about light, not just light, but UV light. What are the three types of UV light that people are used to or that they need some education on?
Well, so UV is just a wavelength of light, right? And within that wavelength, there are different designations, and the most common being A, B, and C. Now, C is the one that's really of interest to us here because it is part of UV germicidal irradiation, and it's actually the spectrum that eliminates, really the reproduction by attacking the DNA of various pathogens, spores and molds, as well as viruses themselves.
That is interesting. I mean, the UVC, this is the same spectrum that's in the sunlight. Been around for billions of years. Actually, back in the 1800s, they were already using UVC light to actually disinfectant. Have we come quite a bit from the 1800s in ways that we're able to administer to the public?
Yes, that's yes and no as far as the technology. It's really quite a simple thing in some way. They've added different things such as bipolar ionization, but you are correct. From the sun provides all of these different wavelengths of light, and what UVC does is it adds hydroperoxides to the air, which enables it to become an active ingredient to kill on surfaces and in air of, again, molds, any kind of pathogens, viruses, this sort of thing. So the science has increased in that we've been able to package it better, right? There's always streamlining, efficiency, getting it to where it's an affordable product and not just available in hospitals where they must do it. And so now you've gotten it to economy of scale down to where it's starting to become a practical thing. And I think most interestingly, long since this conversation of COVID, there have been studies that have shown the efficacy of UV light compared to filtration systems such as HEPA or even increased ventilation. And it's actually significantly cheaper to do things this way. And so now that the conversation started, we're thinking it's a great time to both get people to be healthier, but also to save them a little bit of money on the same indoor air quality goals that they've had before.
I think it's very important for us as we educate the viewers out there that we have to be pretty clear, folks. This is not UVC light that you're going to be cleaning your hands with. You're not going to be cleaning your body with this. You're not going to see one of these things set up at your local box store that you walk through. This is some pretty dangerous light, but that's what makes it really effective. And you're not going to be injecting this into your body. Yes. So it's important for people to know that this is technology that should be handled by a professional. And so is this something that you hope to see more streamlined and people are able to access it and providing more professionals out there?
Definitely. In fact, there's a very, very narrow spectrum that it's really effective against germicidal irradiation. So the actual shape of things is like this across the bandwave. So as you venture away from the wrong wavelength, you quickly start to be looking at an investment that's not going to do anything. You might as well have not invested if the product isn't made correctly. And then, so that's on the manufacturing end. And then on the design end, you have to make sure that you've got enough intensity, because when you're talking about how fast airflow is moving through, say, an HVAC system before a turn, you've only got a certain amount of time of exposure. And even though there have been studies on whether that recirculated air coming back over the UV light will get further irradiation, conservatively, it's just neglected. So you basically get one shot. So if you don't have the correct system put in, you might as well have not invested. So both manufacturing and design are really important.
That is interesting. Like you say, make sure you're working with the unit that actually works. I mean, we see people out there doing a lot of things right now. They're looking at UVC, the first two types, 1 and 2. They're taking their clothes outside and letting the sunlight hit it. Maybe it could work, but this is a whole different animal. I mean, this UV light is so much more than just your typical sunlight. It's basically able to take and destroy genetic matter in a matter of a short period of time. Is that kind of exciting as you're able to provide something like that could be mainstream in a few years?
Yeah, I mean, when Bryce first approached me about, coming together on something like this with our different backgrounds, I got really excited about it. Again, I always wanted, I get a lot more passionate, when I did my solar-powered race boat. I wanted something that is like looking forward to just simply a better way of doing things instead of spinning the same solutions out over and over again. And so when he approached me on this, and then we saw how many facets it touched in building systems, and that it had a real value to people, and it wasn't just another thing they had to worry about purchasing. There was ways that we could actually help them ease into this transition and actually start to see some return on investment. I got really excited about it, actually.
That is very cool. Bryce, let me ask you about this. You obviously seen this as a window of time when it's probably a good time to make this happen. Obviously, we don't have full tests out there knowing if the COVID-19 is something that can be destroyed fully by this UV light. But have they done tests in the past on the other type of viruses, the other type of coronaviruses?
They have. Now, it's important to note that every single test and every single product is different. So for anybody that's out there really researching up different products on the market, you really want to look at that test data and how they came up with that test data. Now, a lot of these products, the better ones, they do show a lot of tests, as Mike said, on some of the coronavirus family. Now, not COVID-19 just yet, but they're really cranking on trying to get those tests. But you can see the efficacy when it comes to certain bacteria, certain viruses, influenza, all of that. You can see the kill ratio over that time on the good products. Now, it's important to note that spectrum, that nanometer wavelength is 265.
265 is peak, but most products use low pressure mercury, which operates at 253.7. So that's about as optimal as where we are right now, and it's optimal enough. It puts you in that 99+% range.
So for anybody that's looking for products out there, they really need to keep that in mind and get that and get that manufacturer's data from them.
That is interesting. And it's kind of like back in the day when we did HD, you had to look at the certain things to make sure you're getting the quality you needed, because like you said, if you're not, you're spending your money on something that probably isn't doing any better than a filter out there as well. Let me ask you this. United States, are we kind of behind the ball when it comes to technology? I mean, I see China out there, other countries already using this UV light. They've got buses out there that are being cleaned in the middle of the night with blue light. They've got even banks that are cleaning and disinfecting their money in this way. Hospital robots that are cleaning the floors. Is the United States, do you think we're going to wake up a little bit with this virus and hopefully embrace a new technology that can definitely help us?
So when we've been reaching out to some of the manufacturers to really compare and contrast who's got it, what technologies are out there, every single one of them is telling us we did 10 months worth of business in the month of April. And so they're really catching up to this. But a lot of the things that you described, we do have here in the States. It's just not as prevalent. So there's mobile disinfecting technology, those lamps that you said, as far as the buses, all of that we have here in the States. It just hasn't been as readily adopted because there hasn't been a need until now.
Let's touch on a couple of the practical ways that this is able to happen. First of all, in the HVAC system. Paint a picture for me how this works for me in simplified terms, if you will.
Okay. All right. So you just have a stream of air coming through your your duct system, such as, in any building that we would talk about or any residential home, and you would place the UV light inside that duct system. And then the air is moving at a certain speed across that light. And so based on the intensity of light and how much time in that given straight section of airflow it has to be exposed to that UV light is how much time it basically is irradiated. And that is what is referred to as the dose. And the dose, just like in any medical situation, if you've got any ailment, you need a certain dose, right, from the doctor to get you better. Same thing here. Each pathogen, each virus needs a different dose. And so you try to set the intensity where it will kill just even the most stubborn or the most ornery of viruses or pathogens as they float over. So essentially, you just expose the airstream to UV light.
That is interesting. I mean, not only you want to make sure you get a unit that has the correct density of light, the wavelength of light, but I would imagine it has to be some pretty amazing motors as well. And we're not talking about an AC that kicks on sometimes or maybe off sometimes. I would imagine the key to this being effective is circulation, making sure that it's constantly going. Is that important for you when you're out there working with manufacturers to get this done?
It's absolutely critical. In fact, in commercial, you must run your blower during business hours by code. That's been around for a long time, and that's to keep the fresh air coming in the building. Residential, it is not required, although it's starting to become required in certain states. However, whenever we've put in IQ products, because obviously we've put in IAQ products, and forgive me, that stands for indoor air quality. Whenever we've put these products in the past, we switch the homeowner or the business owner over to constant blower operation. And yes, that of course increases energy. But most of the blower motors that we suggest that go in tandem with these use about 1/10 of the electricity as your standard blower motor. And I would say a standard blower motor probably comprises 90% of all blower motors that are in units today.
That is interesting. So obviously a great way to keep the air clean. Second way, which is practical, would be surfaces. This is more of a portable solution. Explain to me how these portable units work to make sure that what we're touching is clean.
Well, I want to say a little bit of point there. Even the in-airstream ones will work on surfaces. Okay, and the way it works is because, again, when you add that hydroperoxide to the airstream, the air becomes active in its ability to attack pathogens. So it's not just that the viruses get killed in the airstream, it's that in that time that it's passing the UV light, that's when it can become active. So it still works on surfaces. However, with the mobile units or units that you can just put in wall, the drawback is that no one can be in the room because, again, UV light will burn you just like the sun. But the idea is, again, time, right? So I can intensely blast this table with UV light, for 6 seconds, versus something going through the airstream gets about an exposure between 0.25 to 1 second. So it's just a little bit more effective if you really are concerned about surface contamination to blast it with a mobile device or an in-wall device or something like that.
That is interesting. So basically for the typical home out there, you can actually get quite a bit right through the air. But when you're talking about hospitals, places that are frequented, that's the way to go about it. I mean, it's not only, it's convenient, it's easy. You plug it into a 110 outlet. It covers 99.9%. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And also the fact that it does it in a short period of time. We're talking 30 minutes and it can knock it out.
Yeah, I mean, that's really all you need. I mean, for the mobile units, you can obviously an application in like hotels where you would just wheel it in, close the door, decontaminate the room, and then it's ready for the next guest. With that kind of exposure level, again, you can't be in the room, but if it's something that's been trading occupancy, such as a waiting room or a particular patient room in a doctor's office, something like that. And obviously you can see other applications in your mind where the mobile unit might work. And there's even devices that actually are placed about 7 feet above our heads. They're called upper air devices, and they aim the louvers that the light goes through such that it doesn't hit people directly, and you can actually still have it in occupied spaces.
That is some pretty exciting technology, and definitely right now at a time when it's on the forefront of people's minds. It's the conversation starter, but it should be much more than just about viruses. This is definitely about a way of living, health, and like you said, it affects the bottom line. We found out that, shut down businesses, sickness doesn't work well. right now, I mean, everyone wants to do their part, even more so in a crisis. We all want to do our part. Is this look like something that's going to be rewarding for you as you're kind of taking a proactive approach here?
Well, I think both Mike and I really enjoy looking at problems and then figuring out solutions. And this is one of those where you can solve many different solutions for it. It's the energy efficiency, it's the indoor air quality, it's getting people back to work safely. So that in a construction setting where we get to solve these kind of complex problems is really rewarding.
So my answer to that would be one of the reasons I enjoy the symbiotic nature of my relationship as a co-founder with Bryce is the fact that we both started businesses in the past that focused on a similar business model, which was put the product first, put the result for the client, whatever it is you're trying to do, put that as the number one goal, and then we both found that success easily followed that. So we never really focused on what the success looked like for the business, where it was going, how well it was going to do. We focused more on how well can we do for this client, and then the next, and then the next. And then we found we just didn't have to worry about all that other stuff.
That is excellent. Viewers, let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. Hopefully we've educated out there on definitely a solution that we should be looking at, not only today, but in the future. Check out their website there. On the website, you can learn, obviously, more ways, practical ways that you can put this in your home, not only for residential, but for commercial applications. If you've got a typical home out there, it's amazing what the UV light can provide for you in the way of cleaning your air, but at the same time, actually anywhere that air is touching. If it's a commercial application, you've got a lot of people there, even hospitals or whatnot. Obviously, the portable solution on top of an HVAC is something that you can look at as well. Check out their website there. Obviously, they're going to have some links on there going to different studies and tests that have been available. But honestly, it's pretty exciting when you have something like this that can knock out and really decimate germs to that degree. Once again, that is Clean Tech Engineering, located right here in Denver, Colorado. This is Gary Atencio with CNTV. And if you don't know, now you know.